Hello, listeners. Happy Friday. Welcome back to the Cyber Queens, where we are helping more women get into and succeed within the cyber industry. Today, we're talking about conferences. So, you've probably seen all over your news feeds announcements of people speaking or attending or hosting various events, like at big conferences like RSAC, Black Hat DEF CON. Then there's more women-led specific conferences, things like SquadCon, Cyberjutsu Con, Day of Security, YSIS Annual Conference, the Diana Initiative, and finally Uniting Women in Cyber by the Cyber Guild. So some of these are bigger, some of these are a lot smaller, more intimate, but the conference posts and pictures on social media can cause a real FOMO, right? Like that fear of missing out. But I mean, in economic times, there's kind of two arguments to this coin. Is it worth the time and effort and money to go all the way across the country to attend these events or not?
Yeah, I mean, some of these conferences can cost like upwards of $1,000 to $3,000 for a ticket, and then when you add in hotel, airfare, Uber rides, food, really that overall trip cost can reach like several $1,000s. And I don't know about you, but like where I work today, like that would be my entire personal development budget, which I recognize is nice to have because not everybody even has that from their employer these days. But like to take all of that and blow it on a, week long, if that conference, I don't know if that makes sense, right?
Yeah, it's a toss up. It's like I used to be team don't attend these at all, and then I was team attend all the things. So today, in today's discussion, we're going to help you decide if attending a cybersecurity conference is the right investment for you, the right move for your career, and if you do decide to go, how you can absolutely extract the maximum value from the experience. So, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think a good place to start is probably setting the stage for anyone who hasn't been to a cybersecurity conference before, like, talk about what they're like and everything. Because, as we talk about how expensive they are, they can, in a way, be a little bit of a privilege to have even been able to go to one in your cybersecurity career. So I'm curious from you, like, what conferences that you've attended lately?
Oh gosh, I feel like my conference strategy, and I really analyze this because I keep track of all the ones I attend in a spreadsheet, like where I was attending 2 years ago versus where I attend now. So when I was when I was a hacker who was 2 years into my career and it was immediately post-pandemic and conferences came back, I went to like all the hacker things. I went to Way West Hack and Fest. I went to ShmooCon. I tried to go to DerbyCon, but I didn't get to go in. So these are a lot of smaller, more intimate, like hacking specific, offensive specific conferences. And then last year I branched out. I went to RSA for the first time. And I didn't really even know who the audience for RSA was, but I knew it was big and everyone goes, like everyone who's anyone goes. So I'm like, obviously I have to go at least once and judge if it's right for me. I go to Hacker Summer Camp, so Black Hat DEF CON, SquadCon now, TDI, Diana Initiative, and there's B-Sides LV there as well. So nowadays, I hear a lot of people in my vertical, pen testers, gravitate more towards the B-Sides type meetups, which are like mini one-day summits, and they're chock full of value, you guys. They get bomb speakers, really good agendas. But I still attend the bigger conferences. In fact, I find that I split probably between Black Hat RSA and a few of those smaller summits like JutsuCon and Uniting Women in Cyber and stuff like that. But a lot of mine are more women specific now than hacking specific.
So between the bigger conferences and the smaller conferences, of all of those, which ones stand out to you as having been like the most, I don't know, career advancing or, beneficial for you to have attended, where you really felt like you got the value out of it?
Gosh. I would have to say at first it was definitely the smaller ones because I wasn't as intimidated to talk to people, and chances are at a smaller summit you can talk to everybody who's in attendance, and you don't have to attend every event to do so. But if you attend the happy hours and the lunch and stuff, you're pretty much going to run into everybody. So that was where I made a lot of my first contacts, like the head of Black Hills and the whole Black Hills team and Red Siege and stuff like that. And that was so great as a new hacker because you had someone who bought into your personal brand who works in the hacking space. But a lot of my peripheral collabs, so collabs that happen outside of my hacking vertical, have come from the bigger conferences, things like Cyber Marketing Society conference, which I love, and it's all about marketing. It's not even about what I do in pen testing. I like RSA because I get to meet such a wide variety of different folks. Like at a HackerCon, I'm just another hacker. Like, what's special about that? But at a RSA conference, it's like, oh my God, a hacker's here, an engineer's here. Let's go talk to her. So, you're kind of the hot commodity. So I get different value from each one. I think it depends on like what my goal is for that quarter, or like if I need a project or a sponsor or a buy-in or a contact for a job. That's going to depend where most value comes out of that conference. But what about you? Because I've been to some conferences that missed the mark, or really didn't. I walked away kind of like that was kind of a waste of my time, which obviously isn't great, especially if you foot it yourself. So, what about you?
Yeah, so there are some conference series out there that are very much play to pay or pay to play. That are really just meant to be a showcase or like a marketing funnel for all of these cybersecurity vendors and tools and whatnot. And those can be really difficult to go and really get much value out of. The plus side is that they're usually free. But
or low cost, like a $50 ticket.
Yeah. But the downside is, the audience and the people that it brings in and stuff like that. It's usually, I usually just don't find the people that I'm looking for at those kinds of events. So it's kind of like a got you moment where it's like, oh wow, great, like something free for me to attend, and then you go and you're like, oh okay, now I understand why this is free, right? I'm being sold at, I'm being convinced to buy these tools or why they're so great, and like there isn't necessarily other practitioners like me there or whatever, right? And so those can be tough where that, I don't think it's worth it's almost like, even though it's free, it actually costs you money because it costed you your time to have spent it elsewhere, doing something that might be a little bit more targeted and beneficial for where you want to grow in your career. So those conferences, not so much. Now, the other conferences, let's say like the bigger ones, like a WCS or an RSA or
InfoSec World.
Yeah. I think those, it's going to kind of depend on what your goals are. The plus side is now you've got, a lot of people who are at all different stages in their careers, assuming all different types of roles within the cybersecurity ecosystem, all in one place. So there is, so much opportunity to connect with and meet, some really high caliber people. But as you had mentioned, like in some ways you kind of just end up in this like a number, right? Like you're just one of like 10,000 people. And so, no one's going to be holding your hand for you. No one's going to be making introductions for you. And it's really going to be all on you to extract the value out of that experience.
Force yourself out there.
Yeah. Being willing to put yourself out there and make those introductions and everything like that. And so if you have a game plan, absolutely, I think you could go to a conference, of that scale and make it worth your money, your investment. There are conferences out there that I've been to where I've said, this was great for me right now in my career where I'm at. I would not go to this conference again for another couple of years until I am ready to make yet another move where I would want this venue to be able to get connected to people of this caliber, of this focus, right? Like that conference was very much focused on executives and leadership and whatnot, which is great. They're all there in the room, right? But, as an everyday practitioner and where I was in my career that time, it didn't make sense for me of like, what can I apply to my day to day and where I'm at in my career right now.
Like when I attend a conference, like the goal of my employer, right, is what can you take away from that you can immediately turn around and apply to your job? And if nothing, then like probably that wasn't a good use of your time and dollars. But one of my favorite things to do when it comes to figuring out where else you could go to get more value is at that conference to like ask the attendees, so what do you think of the con this year? Like, how compared to past years, and people are so quick to be like, oh, it's not what it used to be, like this will probably be my last year here, like I'm only here because I'm speaking and then I'm flying out tomorrow. Or they'll be like, you know what's getting good though, this con happening this month, and you're like, oh, why? Yeah. And they'll give you that intel and you can kind of plan. But it's true, when Stacy and I sat down to know the audience, know the audience for the conference, because when Stacy and I sat down to plan our conference strategy this year, I was like, we got to go to all this, right? This and this and this. She's like, all those sound fun. That would be great, but they're not our target audience, who are actually, women, and getting more women into cyber and helping the women out. So we got to go to more women-led conferences. I was like, oh, right. Good thinking. Friend of mine, Amber, started an education charity, and I'm like, you don't even go to tech conferences. That's not even for you. Go to education conferences. Go learn from teachers. That's what you need to learn from. So, understanding your audience is going to be who attends is going to be a big piece in how much value you're going to get from that conference.
Yeah, that really also brings up a good point of like thinking beyond cybersecurity conferences, right? Like,
right.
If you have other skills that you are trying to build, like marketing, like leadership, like, I don't know, maybe building your own business, perhaps consider going to conferences that are geared towards that in order to learn those skills and bring them into your cybersecurity role.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of those things that makes us well-rounded security people, right? When you understand the mindsets of the others involved in the business and how your piece fits in and what their goals and objectives are, you understand how to tailor your pitches and value props just a little bit more. So, okay, let's say we've convinced them to go to a con. They're there. They're at the con. No joke. There they are. Let's talk about strategies for engagement.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, like some of these conferences are massive. They have hundreds, thousands of people. They're really popular. WeSys has been selling out their tickets in minutes over the past couple of years.
2 minutes.
They've gone on sale. Yeah. We have been personally victimized by the WeSys ticket process. So, but it's okay. We're still gonna go and do a little bit of what we'll talk about here, that Meryl will introduce us to this concept, but it's tough, right? Like even like getting into conferences can be difficult sometimes. So like between all the people and the struggle to get tickets and passes, or the cost to get ticket and passes and whatnot, like what can we do? What are some ideas to kind of like, I don't know, get creative about this problem?
Yeah. Some advice that I recommend for kind of getting into the con, if you can't get into the con, there's a few strategies. You can always volunteer to help the con. They always need volunteers. And then you get a free you have to work like the registration table or whatever for a bit, but most of the time you'll get some free time to walk around. Additionally though, one of my favorite strategies, and this was something that I did early on when I didn't have a professional development budget and I worked for an SMB, and I was a junior, so even if they did give those out, probably only to seniors, right? Is something called lobby conning. And LobbyCon is a term that comes from Discord. So basically, when we were hosting all these virtual cons, like through Discord during pandemic times, there would be a channel called the Lobby of the Con. So where people could just chat about whatever, kind of like the random channel, right? The general discussion channel, not specific to a track, not specific to a vertical, just who's in here hanging out. And lobbyconning became a thing in real life, because people couldn't get the budget, they couldn't afford to go, but they see all these people being like, God, this changed my life. I extracted so much value. I met all these people. I'm going to go forth and do all these things. So like, I need that for my career. So we LobbyCon, which is where you just kind of hang out around the con. Literally, you get in all the free spaces as close to the con as you physically can without needing a badge. And you wait to see who's coming in and out. You attend some of the happy hours that happen at off-site locations, kind of like we're having. You attend vendor dinners, pitches, parties, things like that. All these things are, some of them require a badge from the con to get in, but a lot of them will be accessible to just about anybody. So LobbyConning, the art of LobbyConning, is really just about constantly being flexible and available, like having your objectives clear. If I run into an executive, this is what I want. If I run into a senior, this is what I want. And being ready to capitalize on those peripheral events and those impromptu interactions as they're going to come up in front of you, and go wherever the con takes you.
Yeah, I mean, these days the conferences that I've gone to, it has felt like there's more going on outside of the conference than within it. And it can get really hard, actually, to figure out what you're going to do in your mornings and your evenings, more than deciding what panel you're going to attend during the day, if you are fortunate enough to have a conference pass.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I've actually heard two sides of the coin, but how do you suggest then that people strike a balance between attending those key events and divvying up sessions or expo floor time, which is a completely separate piece, but very important?
Yeah. Oh, gosh. I mean, first and foremost, like, don't overcommit yourself, right? Like, don't sign up for, 3 breakfasts, 2 happy hours, and, a lunch conversation or whatever. Like, go for the quality over the quantity. Be really clear about what your goals are. Go again, and we kind of mentioned this right at the outset, right? Like, being really clear about, like, what are you actually trying to get out of this, and making sure that every event that you see come across your email, posted on LinkedIn, whatever, you're asking yourself, like, does this align, or is this something that looks cool? Because let's be honest, like, they all look cool. They, like, give away free stuff. Like, they certainly really
you're gonna have a, like, DJ. You're gonna have a giant claw machine. You're gonna have,
but be honest about your priorities, right? And so really, anytime that you can prioritize the events that are, like, specific to your career goals, like, go for those. Any of the ones that are a smaller group where you have a higher likelihood of having higher quality conversations, like, go after that, right? Like, don't fall for the trendy stuff. Because if you want to go, like, go party somewhere, like, go party with your friends when you're at home, in your hometown, with people who care about you and, like, you probably need to spend more time with, right? If you're at a conference, like, let's keep it really focused on the business, right?
Yeah.
So that's just kind of how I look at it. Like, and again, like, recognize that you're going to need time during a conference to rest, because it is very overstimulating, and you think that you'll be able to push through it, but what you don't want to have happen is you show up in these opportunities that are ripe for making connections, and you're not yourself. You're tired, you're burnt out, you're thinking about all these other different things, or the 5 events you have to attend tomorrow, and then you start canceling, and then those event organizers are like, oh, so and so canceled. Like, as an event organizer for these things, like, I notice, right? And you don't want to, necessarily put that bad juju out there of doing that kind of thing, because, like, it can potentially, look unfavorable on you. So, all of these things are things that I try to keep in mind as I'm planning. I don't know if you have, like, a different strategy.
Yeah, for me, conferences are a marathon, not a sprint. So if it's like a 1-day summit, I can come in, pedal to the metal, like, really work that con and that after event, no problem, full energy. But if it's like RSA or summer camp, RSA is a 3 or 4 day conference without the peripheral travel days. Hacker Summer Camp is Black Hat and DEF CON right back to back, and it's about 9 days total without including the peripheral travel days. So one of the mistakes I made early on was over programming myself. Like, I woke up like a salesperson with, like, a full schedule. I'm like, ooh, 3 options for breakfast. If that's full, I'm going to go to this one. If that's full. And, like, I have people already being like, can you come to my Tuesday event? Like, Tuesday is, like, the popular day this year for some reason at RSA. And I have people being like, I can go to yours for 1 hour. Then I got to jet to this thing for 1 hour. And then I have a dinner over here. And I'm like, that is stressful. As someone who did that hustle, because I refused to not make any of my commitments last year, that was stressful. By day 2, I was ready to go home. I was ready to quit, say I got the value I wanted. I saw some of my friends, I met some new people, and I'm over it. So don't do that. Like Stacey said, definitely quality over quantity. Given that I'm an architect and I do actually have to contribute to my job, I always try to pick 1 or 2 sessions that really apply to my vertical, like whether it's like something practical in zero trust, or like new cloud strategies, like detection engineering, things like that. I want to walk away with something I can bring to the job immediately. So I make time to make 1 or 2 really key sessions. But beyond that, I bake in a lot of time for flexibility because I don't necessarily want to have somewhere to be always. I want to like meander the floor and see who I run into. For instance, last year at RSA, I showed up not speaking at all, and then I ended up speaking on a panel that like my friend Jason just walked up to me, "Hey, are you free tomorrow? Do you want to come speak on a panel in the Sandbox?" I was like, "Sure, okay." So, you got to kind of be flexible and ready. But it's true. I know a lot of people who don't buy the expo passes at all, don't buy the business passes at all. They're just there to host what they host and then they leave. So, yeah, I'm not good at the conference rest, but my battery gets low by about day 3 or 4. I got a social battery little pin that I can slide. So I'm going to be bringing those with me. So if you turn around, you're like, "Hi, Meryl," I'm like, "Hi." Like, you'll know why. I saw them at a cyber marketing conference last year. I thought they were so clever. So I got one.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's one of those things where if it is a week long, you just decide that like Wednesday is your no programming day. Like, you're not going to commit to going to anything, and you're just going to show up where and when you feel like, you're good to do so, prioritizing that rest kind of in the middle. Right. And definitely in the times, I remember there was one conference I went to last year where I didn't go to any panels. I'm pretty sure I only just talked to people in the hallways.
Yeah.
And still like got so much value out of it. So,
absolutely.
Going in without a plan, or at least in my situation, my plan was I wanted to meet as many people as possible. Well, if I'm sitting in a panel listening to a speaker, like that's
where no
great,
one's talking to each other.
And I could maybe talk to the person next to me. Like, that's not going to maximize, help me achieve that goal more than standing in the hallway, like striking up conversations with all the people who are walking past and everything. So, so we can't end any conversation about conferences without talking about the job fair.
The meat market? What?
The job
That's what you
fair.
meant, right?
Yeah.
The job
I mean,
fair.
you said it, but yes. Many conferences, we're fortunate to have job fairs because a lot of these like companies and organizations are the people who are really like underwriting a lot of the conference expense. Y'all, it is expensive to make a conference happen. And especially like any sort of smaller conferences, smaller events where you don't have that scale, like please support your smaller conferences. Please support B-sides and stuff like that.
They're worth it. They're worth it.
They are worth it, right? Because they have to be serious with their money, like very thoughtful. But anyways, so, these conferences, they will have job fairs, and apparently they are just so coveted that, as we know from an experience last year, that men will lie about their gender identity to get into conferences meant for women, meant for identifying and hiring women talent to diversify these corporate teams. So they will lie to get access to the job fair, where, all these companies are paying a ton of money to hopefully connect with underrepresented talent. So, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go look up what happened at Grace Hopper last year. And
shaking my damn head.
I just wish that I had the audacity of these men. Like, I am such a rule follower, but also too, like, what do they think the outcome is going to be when you blatantly disrespect like policies and intent and everything?
The intent, right?
Of the conference. And like, in what realm is that behavior something that a recruiter is going to sit there and say, oh yeah, I definitely want that person who ignored any sort of like social cues and, failed to respect the people who are potentially their future coworkers, by, lying and taking a spot. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. That just blew my mind. I just can't. But basically it's rough out there. Right. So DE&I initiatives is not the way to get yourself the offer, right? It might be the determining factor if they've got two really equal candidates and they need to put more of an emphasis on their DE&I, and like there's a 1% difference that separates y'all, and they're like, we'll just give it to the diverse candidate versus the typical candidate. But there are plenty of cybersecurity conferences that address the entire community that you can attend if you're looking for a new job. There are certain spaces that are meant for certain demographics because in that sea of people, they don't have the chance to stand out, right? They don't have the opportunity to differentiate themselves. And so if a company is intentional about their DE&I and they go to one of these women-led initiatives because they're hoping to get more women onto their team for whatever reason, whether they made a commitment to get certain numbers 50-50 by a certain date, or they just realize that they've done poorly at it, or their own employees have made the outcry, like you are literally slashing their ability to execute on a goal and an intention that they have. And if I was one of those managers, I would say that what they basically think is, oh, I'm so good. I'm going to present a resume that's so amazing. I can bypass the rules and no one will get mad at me. I'll ask for forgiveness rather than permission. And I'm like, that is the BDE we all need. If we all had that, we would be doing just as good as they are. I mean, damn. I've never personally applied to a job through a conference, but I hear it's very good because you get to physically hand your resume to the manager, basically have a little pre-interview right there. And I hear a lot of them actually get followed up on. Even if it doesn't result in a job, at least you get follow up. But what about you? What would be your approach if you're looking for a job at a conference?
Yeah, so definitely go to the job fair for sure.
Show up.
Because they will have sometimes they have like special like cards they'll hand out with URLs for a specific place for you to apply, and you almost like get put to the top of the pile of like, you know, because you put in the effort of coming to this event, like we're now going to look at your resume a little bit more closely. So it can kind of give you a little bit of a competitive edge, you know, going around and talking with people. Now, I will say that if you go there expecting that you're going to have a conversation with a hiring manager, 9 times out of 10, you're not. You're going to be talking with, you know, a recruiter who may or may not have understanding of the roles that are available besides just the job name, right? Like they're not going to be able to tell you anything more specifically about the makeup of the team, the tools they use, you know, all those kinds of expectations. They'll more so just be able to kind of like point you to like, go here and look at our listings and answer like some of the general questions about the culture of the company. Now, that being said, it's not like those people aren't at the conference though, right? Like there are hiring managers who attend conferences. And so the trick is like getting out there and kind of like looking for them. And so there's different ways you can do this, right? Like, okay, now I feel like I'm going to just sound like a stalker, but like if you're on LinkedIn and you notice that a hiring manager or someone who works for a company that you want to work at is going to be at that conference, find a way to connect with them. Like if they're speaking at maybe they're giving a panel presentation, or you know they mention that they're going to be at some sort of happy hour or whatever. Like please don't go out of your way to invade someone's privacy and like track them down. But like generally speaking, if they're like putting that information out there, like use that to your advantage. Like ask yourself which companies, you know, do I want to connect with and see about job opportunities with? And a way to kind of know like who might be there is like looking at the sponsor list, because if they're sponsoring the conference, yes, they're going to have the recruiters, but usually they also have people who have tickets as well.
They'll show up in force. That's absolutely true. And in the event that you are just talking to a recruiter, I mean, we just had several episodes on all the feedback, like the actionable feedback and intel you can glean from a recruiter. So even if the manager's not there, you can say, hey, I was thinking of roles like this, roles like the ones you're hiring for. Can you tell me how I stack up? Can you tell me how I could make myself a better candidate? Like, well, I'm not seeing this or this highlighted here. Do you have those? Oh yeah, the here, here, and here. Okay, list that and say it like that. And that will at least give you a better foot forward when you are virtually applying or virtually connecting with recruiters. But like recruiters are still a gold mine of information to get, and they know what their company looks for. So you could say, I might not be the ideal candidate today, but I want to work here as my next step 2 years from now. What skills can I acquire today that will be important to this team, you know, coming up? So that's another strategy I feel like too.
Yeah. I think from where I stand, it's like, sometimes you get good recruiters, right? Like sometimes they are there, they are present at the table, and they're really helpful for you, right? Sometimes they just aren't. And so like going in there with a healthy dose of skepticism and also having a multi-pronged strategy for how you're going to get around and connect and find ways of uncovering potential job opportunities, like, is really the key, because if you try to put your eggs all in one basket, like, you might end up disappointed.
Yeah. Now, I will follow up my answer by saying, I've never gone to the job fair specifically at a conference. I've never gone to a conference job list and been like, I need to walk away here with a job. But I have talked about jobs at conferences outside of that. So just because I didn't go to the job fair doesn't mean I haven't actually had job conversations with people, mostly on the expo floor. That's where a lot of my value comes from, is just, like Stacey said, walking around and the conversations I have in the hallways and like impromptu conversations. And when I have those conversations, I am already prepared to tailor my pitch. I ask them a few qualifying questions, like, yeah, so what challenges are you experiencing? Or like, what are your goals and outlooks for the next, couple of years? And then I'll say, oh, okay, yeah, see, I've done that before. I did that here. Here's an example where I had success with that. Or, yeah, I didn't used to understand that either, and here's how I overcame that. And then we executed on some great projects, da-da-da-da. So I know how to tailor my approach based on the answers I'm going to get from my questions, like my first qualifying questions. But I will we actually used to have a rule. I used to go to conferences, make so many connections, and then get job offers. So people just be like, hey, we love talking with you. We loved having you in training. We think you've got great spunk. Like, we'd love to have you come work for us. That my boss said I wasn't allowed to attend conferences by myself without a buddy, because I just walk away with job offers. So, that's another way to kind of milk that value out of that experience, even if you don't want to go to the job fair, or the job fair doesn't have companies you want to work for. Maybe they're all gov and you don't want to work gov, or vice versa. So, you can get to where you want to go, maybe just via a different avenue.
Yeah, I think you highlighted to a really important point as well, is that what we're not suggesting is that you go up to someone and say, hey, love your company. Are you hiring? Can I have a job? Right? Like, there's a certain finesse to introducing the interest. It's almost like dating, right? Like, you don't want to come across too desperate. Yeah. So really just kind of like find a way to work it in there. And I feel like there's probably like past connection calls in the insiders community that give great tips on this kind of stuff.
I think Deidre and Marianne specifically would be great for our insiders.
So definitely, I mean, if you're not part of insiders, get into insiders, because there's a lot of resources to help you navigate conversations like, talking to people about being on the job search, because like, that's going to be important too, to really make sure that you don't necessarily turn someone off from considering you for a position.
Yeah, absolutely. I have seen that tenacious approach work before. I've straight up been like, I love this company. I think you guys are so great. I think you're doing all the right things. I'd love to work here one day. If you're ever hiring in my vertical, you know who to call first. So, but that's really, it's kind of like sassy and punchy, and like, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But with that, we are coming to the end of the episode. So before we wrap up with final takeaways, I want to be sure that you all are aware of what's coming up next week and how you can join us if you will be in Nashville for the WESIS annual conference, which is where we will be. So there will be no podcast next week. Stacey and I will be at WESIS. We will actually Friday night be hosting our fabulous salon dinner. So there will be no pod next week, but we will be coming back the week after to give everyone a download on exactly how WESIS went, and our impressions, our takeaways, and how everything was executed. So if you're going to be in the Nashville area, on Thursday, April 11th from 6 to 9 p.m. local time, we're hosting a rooftop happy hour, which is a short 15-minute Uber ride from the actual conference venue, the Gaylord Opry Resort, where it's being held. So we're going to have wine, also the mocktail options of like soda, fruit pops, and other little treats. And you can just bring your cybersecurity questions. It's kind of like a live AMA. Ask us anything about Blue Side, anything about Red Side, anything about career development, planning, upskilling. We're here for you. This is the one that's open even if you're a student, if you've never had a role, if you're hoping to get a role, if you have a role, but it is open to insiders. So we made a special link where you can become an insider, get into the rooftop happy hour, and hang out with the two of us. That and our Airbnb has a maximum of 10 people, including Stacey and I. So we want it to be really intimate and really, really dense in value for the people who come. So if you want to come get into Insiders and RSVP, because I think there's like 3 spots left. So it's going to be great day of. And Stacey, please tell the good people how they can RSVP.
Yeah, so yeah, really important. I really don't want to sacrifice my Airbnb good guest rating by having too many people. So we have 2 ways to sign up. If you are not a Hacker and Heels member already, as Meryl mentioned, you can grab a ticket on Eventbrite. It will include, I mean, right now I have it including a 1-month membership to Insiders, but I think I'm gonna make it 2.
Ooh.
So basically right now the tickets are $30 because I was like trying to keep it to like just the cost of a month of Hacker and Heels. But then you add in the Eventbrite fees and they're brutal. So if you're not a member of Hacker and Heels Insiders currently, go ahead, grab a ticket through Eventbrite, and you will get sent directions on how to, you'll have a little code to redeem 2 months free, which essentially is a $50 value. So there you go. You're not only getting access to Insiders, you're getting, you know, the wine and the treats and everything else and coaching. I mean, it's like, I say it's $50 value, but really like the value of coming to an event like this is going to be, you know, far beyond that. If you are a Hacker and Heels Insider, no additional cost to you. Just go ahead and RSVP under upcoming events in our community platform, and we will do the work on the back end to get you an Eventbrite ticket, reserving your spot.
Yes, absolutely. And then on Friday, April 12th, so the very next night, we're holding the first ever Hacker and Heels Salon dinner. So the first salon ever was at SquadCon last year, and now we've graduated into a salon dinner where we have gone literally all out for the ladies who will be joining us. We've got a beautiful private dining room, florals, gifts, photography and videography, professional photography, all by LGBTQIA plus and women-owned companies and vendors. So we really made it intentional to give back to the underrepresented demographics in this area and the ones who might be suffering from state legislation policies. So unfortunately, registration for that dinner is already closed, and the guests have already been sent out and received and everything. But if you want to make sure you have an invite to the next one in August in Las Vegas, that's going to be at Hacker Summer Camp, make sure to get on the mailing list at the Hacker and Heels website, or just follow us on social media because we will always make all of the announcements there.
Yeah. Also, drum roll, please.
Like literally?
Yeah.
Literally, I can do it.
I am super excited to announce our first sponsor of the Hacker and Heels Salon series for 2024, Twingate. So,
Twingate.
yes. So Twingate, for those of you who are unfamiliar, Twingate helps organizations secure and manage access to their resources in a world where people work from anywhere. Their product can solve for a variety of use cases, including remote access, management and automation of technical infrastructure, enforcing device requirements, and so much more. And so it's basically like a centralized zero trust orchestration layer, so you can create that best-in-class security ecosystem without having to recut your network. So we're really excited to have Twingate as a sponsor for the Hacker and Heels Salon because they are doing a lot of good things when it comes to supporting women in cybersecurity in their workplace, from transparent promotion practices and objective criteria to flexible work arrangements and management training on gender bias and inclusive practices. As you all are well aware, we take our position seriously in collaborating only with companies who have a track record of doing right by women. And so we're really excited to have Twingate supporting this cause. And also, there's still opportunities to support. So if your company has a track record of advancing women in the workplace and want to get your name out there alongside Hacker and Heels' strong values, our strong value-driven brand and our high-quality experiences, make sure to go to hackerandheels.com/salon, where you can learn more and apply to be a sponsor.
Yeah, and this is really so much more than just like putting your stamp on a women's dinner for the evening, right? It's really signaling to all the prospective employees and women out there that this is a safe place to work. This is a place where you will be treated like an equal. So, bravo to Twingate. Can't wait to partner with you guys. So in closing, thank you for joining us for today's episode. We can't wait to meet some of you next week. I am personally getting goosebumps. I'm really excited about it. So don't forget to engage, connect, and follow us to transform your experience into opportunities. So until next time, keep striving and thriving in your careers. Make sure if you attend those conferences that they're going to serve you and your purpose. And if you see Stacy and I at a conference, please don't be afraid. Please come approach us. Please come track us down. I had someone approach me mid breakfast burrito bite once, and we had a great conversation. So don't be afraid. We're here for you, and we can't wait to see you all. Bye. Oh my gosh, we're never gonna get the exit music on time. Thanks to the new